Bobby Lashley has arrived in All Elite Wrestling and he feels like a star. Welcome to Allison Analysis. I'm Ben Allison and I've analysed last night's episode of AEW Dynamite, and here are my 5 key findings. Before I jump into them, if you could like and subscribe, that would be massively appreciated. Here at Wrestling Republic, we create between 5 to 10 free videos per week, and in addition to that, we also have a daily live stream every single day at 8 p.m. UK, 3 p.m. Eastern, and 12 p.m. Pacific. But this week, to make things slightly more confusing, it's 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, just because the UK clocks have changed and the American clocks haven't changed yet. But next week, we'll be back to normal. In at number 5, it's so great to see Adam Cole back in the ring. For the first time in well over a year, we saw Adam Cole step into the ring and compete last night when he took on Buddy Matthews on Dynamite. And as expected, he looked good. Of course, there was a little bit of ring rust, but you have to expect that. And there's no way around it either. You got to get in that ring and you got to just wrestle until the rust falls off. I don't know. But basically, yeah, he looked good. The story told throughout the match with him really fearing for his ankle, I thought it worked really, really well. A lot of time in wrestling, we see a wrestler selling injuries, and rightfully so, but very rarely do we see a mental injury, being scared to use your ankle. So I thought this was actually very refreshing. Now, my only issue was when the doctor got involved, because then it suddenly stumbled into being a bit more of a real injury, and I just thought the doctor part wasn't really needed. But the idea behind it I thought was really, really good. And the tease for Adam Cole versus Malachi Black, well, that gives me NXT Black and Gold vibes. So, of course, I'm on board for that. I'm excited for that. And it's going to be a banger when it happens. My only other question is, why do the House of Black always show up, wrestle for a month, then disappear for like another 2 months, and then repeat? Like, it feels like we see this all the time and we're like, finally, the House of Black are going to be used correctly this time, and then they're not. In at number 4, the structure of Camille versus Chris Statlander felt off to me. From the start, the crowd didn't really know who to cheer for because, of course, Chris Statlander was like the biggest heel in the women's division a month ago, and now suddenly she's a babyface. There's been zero explanation as to why. Stokely, she just got rid of Stokely, no real reason, and the crowd just aren't really buying it. But even still, I had hope for this match because both Camille and Statlander are tremendous in the ring. But unfortunately, the structure was just so off. The moves just didn't really mean anything. They didn't build up to any of the big moves. It was just big move, big move, big move. They didn't give any of them time to breathe. They tried to do a bit of a horse match, but it just didn't work. And I mean, I understand that F5 isn't Statlander's finisher, right? But it should not be used as just another move. It shouldn't be. A lot of these moves should have felt like bigger deals. They didn't, and therefore the crowd didn't really buy into the match. And it sucks because, like I said, both of these competitors are awesome. Start getting the win was the right decision, of course it was. We're going to start versus Monet now. I'm excited for that. I think it'll be a banger. But this match should have been a banger, and it wasn't. It should have gotten more time, and it didn't. And it should have just been produced better, if I'm being completely honest. In at number 3, the BCC story is exactly what AEW needed. I've been saying for months that one of AEW Dynamite's biggest issues right now is every segment feels unrelated to the next segment and the segment before it. And I thought the Elite storyline was going to be something which could connect segments. And for a couple of weeks it did, and then it just fell flat on its face. Well, thankfully, the BCC is learning from the mistakes the Elite storyline made, and now we are finally getting storylines overlapping throughout the show. The BCC are affecting nearly every storyline. The start of the show links to the finish of it. It's keeping the viewer invested. And that's exactly what you want, right? You don't want viewers clicking over because they're bored just because of a segment. You want to keep them hooked in to find out what happens next in the story. It's funny because Jon Moxley has always been the guy AEW fall back on when they need somebody to, really pick things back up. And once again, he's doing it here. But I'm also going to give Orange Cassidy some praise for a second, because his promo last night was the most over I think he's been since All Out 2023. He felt like a star, and yes, at times it was a bit cringe, but that's Orange Cassidy, and fans like it, and it's proven that fans like it. His merch just sells like hotcakes. I mean, people buy into him. And I know he's not for everybody, but the fact is, he very much is one of AEW's homegrown stars, so them putting him in this position does make a lot of sense. And Moxley versus OC at Full Gear should be an absolute banger. And like I referenced a second ago, they face each other at All Out 2023. There's a lot of history between these two guys, and hopefully they really talk about that in the upcoming few weeks. In at number 2, Private Party are finally AEW Tag Team Champions, but what's going on with the Young Bucks? It was long overdue, but finally Private Party have won the AEW Tag Belts. Fans have wanted it for years, and it's finally happened. And it was a banger of a match. The only thing that I would have changed is I would have had this either open the show or main event a different show, because it deserves to be in a bit of a higher spot compared to just the middle of the card. But regardless, they won and the crowd went nuts. But what's going on with the Young Bucks? Because after the match, they congratulated Private Party, which is just massively uncharacteristic, then went backstage and they did a full-on Succession tribute by shredding some documents. Please don't tell me this is a face turn. Kota Ibushi has literally confirmed that we are weeks away from a Kenny Omega return, right? And this entire Elite storyline has been leading up to this Kenny Omega return. So don't throw it away now. Don't do an MJF and Adam Cole thing, please. Wait for Omega to return, wait for Kota Ibushi to return, then do the Golden Lovers versus the Young Bucks, then do the heavily teased match between Jack Perry and Kenny Omega, have Omega win the TNT belt, then perhaps after the Continental Classic, if Okada does lose that tournament, have Okada versus Omega as well, and then after all of that, then if you want to turn the Elite face, go ahead. But don't do it before, I am begging you. You've built this story up for so long. Don't throw it away right before Omega returns. In at number 1, Bobby Lashley feels like a big deal in AEW. For the longest time, AEW have lacked a big guy top star, but now they finally have one. Admittedly, along the way, they could have made guys such as Wardlow into that star and didn't, but we'll ignore that for now. Lastly, when he walked down to that ring, the massive reaction he got, he felt important, he felt like a big deal, he felt like a game changer for AEW. And based on how well Shelton Benjamin has been booked and how good he looks since debuting in AEW, I do have a lot of hopes for the Hurt Syndicate there. I do think Lashley could be a future AEW champion, and I'm very excited to see where this storyline goes. My only complaint was you could hear the 90 seconds remaining, 60 seconds remaining, 30 seconds remaining, and then MVP going, Bobby, we need to close. I mean, the mic shouldn't be picking this up, right? And I think the worst thing about it is it picked it up on 90 and it also picked it up on 30, right? So you had 60 seconds to either tell the producer to keep his voice down or sort out the mics or something, and you didn't. Live TV, it's incredibly difficult to produce, but this was an L, and it did affect the segment. It didn't hurt the debut, but it did affect the segment. Bobby Lashley will, of course, bring more eyes to that product, right? And if that's somebody's first impression of AEW, it does look like amateur hour a little bit. But regardless, like I said, it didn't take away from the debut, and I'm so excited to see what Bobby Lashley does in All Elite Wrestling. Overall, I actually really liked last night's episode of Dynamite. I thought it was actually probably the best episode in quite some time. Like I said, the story's really connected, and it was just a fun show as well, so it gets a massive thumbs up off me. But what did you guys think of the show? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and I will be back on Sunday. There won't be a SmackDown Allison Analysis this week, but I will be back on Sunday to talk a little bit about Crown Jewel, so I hope to see you guys then. Peace!